This is deadline day, the verdict, as Everton steal the limelight with a flurry of late deals.
Jose Mourinho and Manchester United didn't get the central defender that they wanted. We assess where it leaves their title challenge and their manager.
Tottenham become the first side in Premier League history not to make a signing in a transfer window. Will it cost them a top 4 place?
And Chelsea present Kepa as the world's most expensive goalkeeper, but have they finished the window stronger or weaker than when it opened?
Good evening to you. It's been another frantic deadline day, and here to go through it all with us, Alan Smith, Don Goodman and Ryan Mason. They're with us for deadline day, the verdict.
Indeed they are, but we are not done yet. The transfer window is closed, but deals could yet be confirmed. We'll make sure you don't miss a beat.
Now watch this. That's what happened. Don't know when.
Here we go. Looks like United might be signing a sweeper.
He hasn't been traded. Oh my God, I've just been splashed.
Just have a look at my shoes and my suit. I think I need a new suit and some new shoes.
I'll have to stay tuned to Sky Sports to find out. Fantastic.
So what a deadline day it has been for our reporters out on the road, here in the studio as well. And in particular, for one of those reporters out on the road, it has been very, very busy at Everton, at their Finch Farm training ground, because Everton have confirmed 1 new deal, 3 more to come. And Alan Myers, I think it's been a great success, has it not, for Marco Silva and co?
It has. I think there's great delight around here, certainly with the people at Everton, also with the fans, a few outside, saying how delighted they are of the business that Everton did. Of course, we started the day waiting for Bernard, the Brazilian, the little Brazilian who's come here with a lot of high hopes. I know Marco Silva in particular was very keen to get him in. That deal was done on a free transfer from Shakhtar Donetsk. Then we heard confirmation from Barcelona, didn't we, that Mina, a name that Everton have been trying to get him for some time now. We've been hearing for some time. Would he go to Man United? Would he go to Lyon? No, he's been confirmed as a deal just under £30 million from Barcelona. And also Andre Gomes, who's coming on a loan for this season, 17-18 season, or 18-19, sorry. And so it's been a really good day. And we weren't finished. There was another one after the deadline, and we're still waiting to hear Kurt Zouma, whether or not he's going to join on loan from Chelsea. So we're still waiting confirmation from the club on that one, but that looks to be about to go through.
OK, Alan, thank you very much indeed. Let's get the latest from Brighton now. And Roger Clark, those extra 2 hours have come in handy?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Martin Montoya, they've now confirmed, is a Brighton player. It went right up to that 7 o'clock deadline. They put in a deal sheet and they've got the deal done. Remember, we were reporting earlier that Fulham were showing interest in bringing him in. They diverted their attention elsewhere, and then Brighton came into the picture and they've managed to get this deal done. He's a 27-year-old right back. He comes in from Valencia. He's played at Barcelona as well. He's played the majority of his career in the top division in Spain. Brighton are absolutely delighted to have him. They just put out a statement. They've put out some quotes from Chris Hughton, who says that Martin's pedigree is excellent. He's delighted we've been able to add a player of his standing to our squad. There's no doubt he will improve our options in the right back position. So a good day all round for Brighton. Remember earlier we told you they'd confirmed the signing of Dan Burn. He'll go back until January on loan at Wigan before joining up here. And now they've confirmed the signing of Martin Montoya.
Well, it has been a very busy window for Brighton. It has been a very busy deadline day for Everton. 3 signings in, another Kurt Zouma they're still working on. Gentlemen, good to see you all, by the way. Welcome along to the verdict. If they get all 4, Alan Smith, how do you assess Everton's performance today?
Decent, yeah, no, I mean, busy day and a successful one. That always doesn't come to pass, does it, when you've got several targets in mind? But it seems as if, I'm sure Marco Silva will be very pleased with the work that he's been able to get through during the transfer window since he turned up at Goodison. I think we all feel he's a very good manager. He's got something about him. He's got a charisma about him, and I think he can carry players with him. And he's going to get the chance to carry some good players with him. I think Richarlison, for me, is a really interesting one because he blew our socks off, really, didn't he, in those early stages for Watford, and then he ran out of gas a little bit, but he's certainly a talent, and I think he's had a summer of rest because that was a problem. He'd hardly had a summer off for the last 4 years, I think. So if he can produce that kind of Watford form in a better team, he can give them that little spark, I think.
Richarlison, Bernard, Gomes, what sort of style of player Everton going to be? Fans going to be looking forward to, Don?
Well, I think we saw, didn't we, at the start of last season, how he set Watford up, and actually prior to that, how he was with Hull City at the end of the previous season. Ryan can vouch for that. So, you know, he seems like a coach who is very much hands-on, wants to coach his teams to play through the thirds, and to have that cutting head. It's interesting with the Richarlison one. He was the man that got the best out of him. So when he went, new manager comes in, perhaps slightly different tactics, slightly different formations, and he was never quite that sharp, incisive player than he was under Marco Silva. So I think Everton fans will have a big smile on their face right here, right now.
Some exciting attacking players, Ryan. Defensively, this was the area of concern among Everton fans. Has he adequately addressed that, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a type of manager that gets teams organised as well. We see it with Hull when he come into the club, we were conceding a lot of goals. He spent a lot of time on the training pitch to organise us and address that, and he done that. And at the same time, he still had that attacking flair with his teams. We see it with Watford at the beginning of last season. The way they were approaching games was really refreshing. So Everton, they worked hard to get Marco. They tried to get him last season. Obviously, that didn't happen, but they managed to get him, and they've backed him in this transfer window. So
how good is he, from your point of view?
For me, potentially, he could be a top manager. I feel like this is the next step for him, Everton. They're a club that I feel like he could push for top 6. I feel like 7th or 8th is probably a realistic aim this season, but over the next 2 or 3 seasons, I feel like he could break them into the top 6. And in terms of him and his coaching staff, he's got so much potential to go on to the top level for sure.
Because surely Everton aren't bringing in Richarlison, Bernard and Gomes to finish 7th, are they, Alan?
No, I mean, Everton, you know, traditionally have been regarded as a top 6 team, haven't they? And the balance of power has shifted. So we're always wondering whether that glass ceiling can be broken and somebody else to get into the top 6 at the expense of whoever. With those signings, Everton have got a better chance than anybody, I think. With a very good manager in place, and the fans are obviously going to be happy. They will be feeling at this point that they're going to see the kind of football that they want to see, and they get off to a good start. That feel-good factor, who knows where it can lead. It might take time. It should take time for everybody to get used to the manager's methods and the new players coming in to get used to the Premier League.
That's important, though,
the
isn't
intensity of it.
The start that they get off to, because I do think that, although he's a new manager, I think the circumstances in which he's arrived at Everton bring with them a little bit of pressure, really. He was headhunted. Clearly, he had his head turned last sort of autumn/winter by the Everton approach, and therefore, with that, you know, the last, I don't know, dozen games or so of his Watford tenure weren't that great, were they?
No, it was like he'd taken his eye off the ball.
And Everton is a big club, and they are the club of all the rest of the ones below the top 6 that we all believe should or could be the ones to maybe potentially have a little crack at breaking into it. So with that comes a pressure and an expectancy.
I mean, it's heartening for the Everton fans because across Stanley Park, Liverpool now, with the signings they made, I know we'll come on to them, but they're gunning for the title, aren't they? So Everton fans need to feel that they're heading in the right direction, and it looks like they are.
And a final word on Everton, and a word of caution maybe, because Everton fans have been here before. 12 months ago, Ryan, they were making all these signings, they were very excited, and a few months later, it all went horribly wrong. Can you make a case for why that will be different this time?
You can, but there's always a risk with signing a lot of players. It can take time to gel, but positively from them, we see with Marco at Watford, he made an impact very quickly with them. You know, the first couple of months of that season, they were absolutely flying because he had a pre-season with them, he worked on the squad and the tactics, and I'm sure from his point of view, he'll be fully confident that the start of this season, I looked at Everton's fixtures and they're relatively kind for the first 4 or 5 games. So if they can get points on the board very quickly, then I'm sure that'll give everyone at the club a big boost.
So we'll wait and see what happens with Everton. In terms of players that have left them, Alan, Wayne Rooney's moved on. Klaassen, a player it just didn't work out for. They've retained most of their first team, though. They've managed to hold on to all the players, and significantly, Jordan Pickford, who was linked at one point with Chelsea, is still at the club.
Yeah, exactly. No, that would have been a major one for the manager, for the club, to hold on to somebody whose reputation's gone through the roof, really, hasn't it, over those 5 weeks in Russia, whatever. So that's really important. You know, Wayne Rooney leaving the club, although he didn't show his best football at Goodison, he would have been a big presence in the dressing room with his experience and his ability to help players, especially the younger ones. So they're going to miss that. They're going to miss that. They need leaders in there, and you know, some of the new lads might emerge as leaders in time. Ashley Williams has obviously moved out, and he's rebuilding that defence, trying to get some more youth into it. And obviously, Mina, what is he, 23? Didn't get much of a shout at Barcelona, but he looked a heck of a player for Colombia, especially against England. He looks a real force, set pieces, somebody that I think the Everton fans will take to.
Well, I think you can sense from our guest there it's an upbeat verdict from an Everton perspective. Might be slightly different when we talk Manchester United now and what happened to them today. Don, all the talk at the start of the day was which of the three central defenders they were in for would they get? Well, unless something comes through and gets confirmed in the next hour or so, they've got none of them. How big a problem is that? Or is it a problem?
I think when you make a statement that you've given your chief executive a list of 5 players, and then when it gets narrowed down to 3 top defenders, and you don't get any of them over the line, and you are Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, then for me that's slightly concerning, I have to say. It's the kind of message that it's not a positive message at all. So you could see by Jose Mourinho's body language, he doesn't seem to be very, very happy with the transfer window. And if you interviewed him now, I'm sure you wouldn't get the vibe that he was overly happy.
But let's face it, centre-back-wise at the moment, Ryan, they've got Jones, they've got Smalling, they've still got Rojo, haven't they? I think he's still there. Bayu, they spent £30 million for 2 years. Lindelof, who they spent £30 million on last summer. What's all the fuss about? They've got enough centre-backs, haven't they?
Yes, they have. And the problem for me is the way that Jose's played it out in the media. He's come out and said a few things about certain players he wants in certain positions. The fact they haven't got them, what sort of effect is that going to have on the players in that change room? Because some of the comments he's made this pre-season, it's not done the young lads any favours, and if you're a centre-half at Manchester United now, you almost get the impression that Jose's not happy with you. And what effect that can have over the season remains to be seen, but if I'm a Jones, if I'm a Smalling sitting there, the manager obviously isn't backing him, so that can't have a positive effect on them.
You've got other issues, haven't you? Because you've got the Paul Pogba thing in the background. Then you've got on the back page this morning Alexis Sanchez saying United must buy a player in this transfer window, a big player. And neither, you know, that didn't happen. So there are other issues that probably need clearing up a little bit.
I mean, they've got real talent in that squad, and it's quite a deep squad, but it's the man at the top, isn't it? It's Jose Mourinho, and at the moment it just feels like a joyless experience for everybody concerned. You know, Pogba's only just arrived back at United and he wants away, and that shouldn't be the case. As Don said, it is Manchester United. People should be scrambling over hot coals to stay there, to get in the team. And at the moment, it looks like Jose's lost that charisma, that ability to keep players with him. You know, last season he criticised many of his players publicly, which he never used to do. Things have changed there with the manager, and I think it'll be a really difficult season for United because of that.
It's strange because obviously Thibaut Courtois, he forced that move to Real Madrid. Real Madrid are one of the biggest clubs in the world, and he wanted to go there. He refused to go back to Chelsea, so he forced that move. And there was a number of players that potentially could have gone to Manchester United, but we didn't see anyone come out and say they wanted to go to United or really force it. And that's something I think 5-10 years ago, you would have seen players come out and made sure that they got that move to Manchester United. But it almost seemed, I don't know whether it's the style of football, the current manager, I don't know, but players aren't as eager to get to Manchester United as they used to be.
Let's be honest, though, Jose Mourinho, we know, when he opens his mouth, he's thought very carefully about what he's saying and why he's saying it. Could this not be all part of a master plan, just to stop people talking about Manchester United as a football team, and when the season starts, Alan, they'll be absolutely fine?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, the United fans, yes, they finished in a decent position. No silverware last year. A couple of trophies the season before, but they wanted more, and their patience will wear thin, particularly if that style of play continues and they're not challenging at the top, challenging with City, as it looks like them being the front runners.
It's the style of management as well, isn't it? This is a manager who is happy to call his players publicly, to have a go at his players publicly. Now, if you're going to do that, you have to be certain that they've got the mentality and the mental resolve to give you the response that you're after, which is a really positive, I'll show you type of an attitude. Now, that didn't happen with Anthony Martial, with Rashford a little bit, with Luke Shaw certainly, with Pogba. You know, we never really saw the best of those. They're just 4 examples, really. So, I don't know. At the minute, from the outside looking in, it doesn't look like a happy camp.
Can they win the title, Ryan?
Potentially, because they've got Jose, and Jose has this history of winning titles. He is a winner. I just feel like the way that the past 6 months have gone with Jose and this United team, I just don't see them. You talk about not being a happy camp. From the outside, it does look like that, and that negativity that Jose's coming out with in the press, it's contagious. You know, that squad of players must be feeling that.
Gents, thanks very much indeed.
So, it was a transfer window that appeared to promise so much for Manchester United, as we've been discussing. We told you they were chasing those 3 centre-backs in Maguire, Alderweireld, Boateng, then Diego Godin, and his agent were thrown into the mix. But obviously, as we've been discussing, they haven't signed anyone today. And we just wanted to show you something here. This is what you have been searching for online today. These are the top 5 questions that were asked according to Google Trends. Let's just have a little look, including who have Manchester United signed? Nobody. Earlier on in the window, of course, Fred, Diego Dalot and Lee Grant all arrived. Is that good enough for you, Manchester United fans? You also asked, will Manchester United sign anyone? Just been those 3 players then. And what is United's predicted lineup as well? That's a decision that Jose Mourinho has to make. And will Luke Shaw be starting for Manchester United? Well, you'll have to find out tomorrow, because they are up against Leicester City in the opening game of the Premier League, and you can see it, of course, live on Sky Sports.
Still to come, we'll assess Tottenham's lack of business, and just a few days ago, many hadn't heard of this man. Would you have known him if you bumped into him in the street? Well, now he's the world's most expensive goalkeeper. More on Chelsea's summer window to come next.
So this is deadline day, the verdict. We are just digesting exactly what has happened today here in the newsroom. Obviously, loads of deals have gone through already. Some are still yet to be confirmed due to that extra 2 hours. If you got your deal sheet in before 5 o'clock, you've got until 7 to confirm it, and they are just starting to dribble out now. But nothing at Tottenham. They've become the first Premier League club to go through an entire transfer window since it started without signing a player, and that was it started back in 2003, you remember. The Tottenham fans might be concerned, but Mauricio Pochettino, is he concerned?
The club made a massive effort to try to extend contract with players like Harry Kane. The club is doing an amazing effort to try to finish our stadium. The market was crazy. The World Cup, I think, changed a little bit the mind of everyone. We have a very good squad, we have a very good player, and it's not easy to add player that improve that. It's true that our target always are in the same level of Real Madrid or Manchester United or Manchester City, but I am not worried, I am not sad, I am so happy. I think to keep our best player was our objective, our goal, and I think we achieved that. If you cannot add a player that can improve your squad, the most important is be sure that you can you don't lose your best player, and I think that was a great job from the club to keep the best player and keep the manager.
OK, we're going to get the verdict of our guests very, very shortly indeed on Tottenham, and we want to get your verdict, the fans. We mentioned, even though Mauricio Pochettino doesn't seem to be particularly bothered about not signing any players, we want to know what your views are, and this poll is open for you right now. Let's just have a little look. There it is. That is not the poll that we are talking about. But I will just tell you what the poll is, ladies and gentlemen. This is live television. It's deadline day. This little machine here is exhausted. It has been working all the way since 6 o'clock this morning. You're a real tough cookie, you are. Right, let's just tell you exactly what the poll is. Will Tottenham finish in the top 4, ladies and gentlemen? And you'll be relieved to know that the poll is going to be open for 10 more minutes. Get voting.
Seamless, Adam. So Pochettino seems pretty relaxed, doesn't he? No new signings at all in this window. Let's speak to the Spurs man on the panel. Nothing to worry about, nothing in. Is it a problem or is it not?
I don't think it's a problem because the gaffer don't see it as a problem. I think, obviously, as a Tottenham fan, I would have liked to have seen them add a few additions to strengthen the squad, but I think most importantly, we've kept our best players, and a lot of the talk last season was about losing players going into the new stadium this season, but the club, fair play to the chairman, he's kept hold of the best players. I mean, Toby's the best centre-half in the Premier League for me, and a fully fit Toby helps Tottenham massively. And I think the message that the gaffer and his coaching team are sending is positivity. And if you're in that Tottenham camp and around the training ground, then you still believe that good things can happen this season. So that's very important for them.
Well, they've certainly kept the players in terms of the Premier League window. The problem is Europe's window, Spain, etc., is still open for a while yet, Don. So is there still a concern that Alderweireld, Dembele or others could still be snapped up?
Well, I find it a little bit strange that was made public knowledge that those 3 players were available, because you may need them, as we've just heard from Ryan.
Did Tottenham make it available? I'm not sure Tottenham made it available, though, did they? I don't think it was an official statement.
Right, it was strange that we all now know that those 3 players were available, yet they may still be at Spurs, you know, come the start of the season, come the end of the window, the end of the European window as well. So, first of all, I thought that was a bit strange. The fact that Spurs have made no signings, I find quite remarkable, really, because they're in the business of trying to win trophies now. Now, for them, we all acknowledge they have made massive strides over the last 4 or 5 seasons, but they still are trophyless. And the next thing for Spurs to do is to win silverware. For me, they've seen every single team in and around them that competes at the top of the Premier League by players. Some haven't got as many players or the calibre of players, but they've all tried to improve their squad. So, for me, it almost adds a bit of pressure, because it's a bit of an arrogant attitude to say, we're all right, our squad's good enough, because, you know, finished 3rd, didn't win a trophy. I don't know. It's just a little bit strange for them.
I mean, I don't think it's something that they would have wanted.
No.
I mean, obviously, we know about their pursuit of Jack Grealish. I just think back to when I was a player, though, and when we'd won the league, and then you come back for the first day of pre-season, you want to see another face or two in there, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, preferably not in your position, but you just want that little spark to liven the dressing room up a little bit. He might have a different sense of humour, different way of doing things, and you can talk about it, you can look at him, and it just changes the dynamic of the dressing room, whereas the Spurs players obviously have gone back and everybody knows each other in that circle, as good as they are, those players. So that is less than ideal, but I would also say we always equate progress with transfers, don't we? Signings. Oh, they've done well, they've got a signing. Well, that's not always the case, you know. We'll see in 3 months' time, 4 months' time, whether Everton have had a good transfer window. It might go pear-shaped, and that applies to a lot of teams who've spent a lot of money. So we'll wait and see. But for Pochettino, I'm sure he would have wanted a couple in, but he's got some top players there, and if they can keep their hunger, their appetite, and the fitness, obviously, with the World Cup stuff in mind at the start, why can't they challenge in the way that they have in previous seasons? Obviously, there's ground to make up with Man City. They have got the new stadium. That should give them a lift.
But we now know that there are 3 players, at least, in that dressing room that didn't want to be there at the start of this season, really, because they're available, aren't they? And if they know that the club have made them available, then...
Alan spoke about the new stadium. If you're a player in that change room now, in this Tottenham squad, going into that new stadium, surely you want to be playing. That's a massive thing for the club. It's a huge time for the football club. You know, the gaffer speaks about the new training ground, the new stadium, the foundations are there, you know. He's guaranteed Champions League football again, and obviously the next step for Tottenham is to win trophies. That's for sure, but the foundations are there for Tottenham to be a top club. And for me, pound for pound, the gaffer they have is one of the best around. Brilliant. So keeping hold of him, keeping hold of that squad of players, I still feel confident that this Tottenham team can do great things.
I think you're right to mention Alderweireld. He is a top defender, and if he can reach those levels again, I mean,
but here's
fantastic.
The deal, right?
But whether he wants to... I mean, is he just running down his contract now and he's got half an eye elsewhere? Maybe he won't be the same player?
What if any of them 3 players are in a game now, right, and they pull out of a 50-50 challenge? What are the crowd going to think? Are they really going to put their bodies on the line? And going into a new stadium is brilliant. Playing for a club like Tottenham, brilliant. But they know that their contracts are going down. Are they going to run risks? Are they going to be 100% committed to the Tottenham cause?
The one thing I can guarantee you, having worked under this gaffer, I've experienced him usher out senior pros, top international pros. If the gaffer feels like you're not putting it in training, you're not working hard for the team, for the squad, you won't play.
Play.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Good. And you know how he handles players then. How will he handle Alderweireld?
He'll be excited. I'm sure Toby will be coming back from the World Cup. I'm sure Toby will be eager to play for this Tottenham side. Let's not forget 2 years ago, Tottenham finished runners-up and they had a good opportunity. They just come up against Chelsea, who had a freak season. They won 13 games on the bounce and they was unbelievable under Conte. But this Tottenham, the squad they've got, the first 11, if they can keep the first 11 fit in the Premier League, then that team will feel confident at challenging.
You need more than the first 11, though, don't you?
Yeah, no, of course, but Tottenham have finished third, second and third in the last 3 seasons. That's a massive achievement, and they've been very close to silverware. They've not quite got over the line, but they've been very close. And I said it before.
A couple of new players might have got them over the line.
The experience of playing in those big games. I mean, 6 of the squad were in the latter stages of the World Cup. I mean, it's big for the club. It's big for the club that these players are playing in the biggest games and learning from them, because it's still a relatively young squad, and I'm sure that change room and the group of players feel confident and optimistic about this season.
Let's rejoin Adam, because I think he can update us on that poll.
Fingers crossed, Jules. Fingers crossed. So, they finished, obviously, Tottenham well within the top 4 last year. They finished third with 77 points, and we asked you a few moments ago whether you thought they were going to finish in the top 4 once again, considering the fact that they haven't brought anyone in during this window. Yes, it works. Right, will Tottenham finish in the top 4? We've been asking for your votes on Sky Sports News, and as you can see, yes, 39%, no, 61%. So that is a damning view from the Tottenham fans and other fans who are welcome to vote as well on whether Tottenham are going to be enjoying Champions League football next season. after finishing in the top 4.
Well, Jurgen Klopp seems delighted by his transfer business window. We'll assess his arrivals as well as Chelsea's. That is still to come on deadline day. The verdict next.
So this is deadline day, the verdict, and the breaking news is emanating from Watford this evening. They have secured their 7th signing of this transfer window. We can run you through the details, and it is Domingos Quina, the Portuguese attacking midfielder. Earlier on in the window, the 18-year-old who was at West Ham was reportedly wanted by Barcelona, and Watford are very, very happy to have secured his signature. And Liam Rosenior, who is alongside me, is nodding profusely because that sounds like a good signing to you as well, does it?
No, he's a very good player. I actually played against him in the under-23 Premier League, and he's someone who's always stood out to me. I think that's a great signing for Watford, and he's always been a player that I've been interested in following, and I wasn't surprised that he was linked with teams like Barcelona.
Is it interesting to you that obviously there's been a massive influx of players into West Ham, and he's, well, I suppose, a byproduct of that he can then leave?
Yeah, I think that's natural in football. Whenever you look to strengthen a squad, there are always players that are going to lose out, and especially in the positions that West Ham have strengthened in the summer. Domingos is someone who plays in a more offensive attacking midfield position, so he'll find it difficult to get in the side there. And I think Watford have made a very astute signing in taking him in.
OK, we didn't get you here to talk about Watford. We got you here to talk about, well, all sorts of different things. We'll talk about Brighton, we'll talk about Fulham, two of your former clubs in a moment's time. But just in general terms, your view on this shortened, fun-packed transfer window, has it worked for you?
I think it'll be interesting. I think it's difficult for teams in the Premier League because the window's still open abroad and still open in terms of loans in the Championship. I think it's going to take time to make sure the timings are right in terms of the window. And I understand why we've done it in the Premier League, because you don't want players who maybe don't want to be at a club or want to be at another club playing competitive football against other teams. So I understand why it's been done. Again, it's been an exciting window full of signings that are still coming through to us now that we weren't aware of, the likes of Domingos Quina just moving to Watford, and it always brings up plenty of talking points and plenty of reasons to be excited for the season to come.
Obviously, it's cleaned up the fact that managers have to, vote for who they want, who they want in their squad, but I suppose it's not going to alleviate the problems to still have potentially disruptive influences in the team who still want to leave and can still leave. So that's going to be a tough one to balance, isn't it?
That's why I think it should be regulated that every league in Europe abides by the same date. You know, you're going to have players who may be linked with clubs abroad in Europe that are still looking to leave while the season's begun. I think that needs to be looked at, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully everything else will come into line. And like I said, I can completely understand why you want to get your transfer business done before the season kicks off.
Let's deal with the transfer business that Fulham have done. Obviously, back in the Premier League and spending big today, and it's been frenetic at Fulham's training ground, hasn't it?
It has been, and it's amazing. I think it goes to show how far the league's come, that a team that have just been promoted are now spending over £100 million on their players. And it's not just the amount of money they spend, the quality of player they're able to bring in now. They just signed Luciano Vietto from the likes of Atletico Madrid. Alfie Mawson was one of the best centre-halves in the league last year. And along with the likes of players that already been there, like Tom Cairney, who's an outstanding young talent. They've signed two fantastic midfield players from France. I'm really excited to see how one of my former clubs get on this year.
And how about Brighton? Obviously trying to retain now, having come up and done that last year and stayed up. Do you believe that the recruitment that Chris Hughton has done will ensure that they can stay once again?
Always. You know, at Brighton they work very hard on recruitment, not just in terms of players' ability but their character as well. And in terms of the character of the squad and the chemistry of the squad, it looks really good again this year. I'm fortunate enough to still work at the club. I've seen a new signings integrate into the squad really well, and we're all really excited to have hopefully another successful season.
And from your point of view, just finally, sitting away from being on a playing staff watching deadline day, could you enjoy it a little bit more?
Not at all. I was recruiting at Brighton today as a coach, trying to get one of the young players to sign and spend time with us, and that's the whole different side that I'm beginning to see now in terms of becoming a coach, having to give the talk to players about how much you want them, how excited you are to be at the club, and it's another learning curve for me and one I've really enjoyed.
How did you do? Give yourself marks out of 10 for being the gaffer today.
Right, he hasn't made a decision yet, so we'll see.
Excellent, Liam. Great work.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to see you.
Cheers.
Yeah, we'll hear more from him on the debate at 10 o'clock tonight. Lots more fallout from deadline day. Here in the Sky Sports News studio, this is deadline day, the verdicts. We were talking about Spurs a moment ago, weren't we? The man they missed out on was Jack Grealish, who in the last few minutes has taken to Twitter with the words, "Let's get to work." Hashtag AVFC and two hearts, one is claret, one is blue, and there's a picture of him blowing a kiss to the Villa fans. So Jack Grealish, who was said to be disillusioned yesterday when he didn't get his move, is focused today, it seems, on all things Aston Villa. Let's focus our attentions now on all things Chelsea, gents. Interesting window for them. They've broken the world record fee for a goalkeeper with Kepa coming in to replace Courtois. They brought in Jorginho as well. They've got a new manager too. Don, the big question, have they done enough, though, to get back into the top four under Sarri?
Well, we don't know the answer to that yet, do we? We don't know the answer to any of the clubs that have done business, but I think an enormous thing that they have done is keep Eden Hazard. I think that is absolutely huge. He proved on the world stage at the World Cup in the summer what a player he is. And I think a Chelsea without an Hazard would have had huge problems, you know. So it's a new dawn. They've brought in a new coach, and we all know his front foot attacking style, and I think the Chelsea fans will enjoy the ride. Whether they've done quite enough business remains to be seen.
I mean, how difficult has it been for them, Alan? The manager's only been in, I think, 3 weeks or so, and yes, he brought in Jorginho pretty early when Manchester City were after him. He got in there and brought him in. How tricky has it been, and how much might that affect Chelsea this season?
I mean, it was a weird situation, wasn't it, with Conte taking the first step pre-season? I mean, I've never known anything like it. But I think Sarri knew he was going to get his feet under the table pretty soon, so he could talk to the club and plan ahead, and hence the signings. But it's a learning curve for him. And as Don said, you know, it was quite a helter-skelter ride at Naples at times. Likes to play out from the back, and we saw that in the Community Shield, and the players didn't look too sure of what they were being asked to do. I know he took a lot of chances at Napoli at times, and they seemed to get away with it. So it's quite an adventurous style of play, which, yeah, I think the fans will like if they're getting results. You're right about Hazard, Don. I mean, I'm presuming he wants to be there still. When he made a comment at the start of the summer about saying maybe, you know, my time has come to an end, you're thinking, oh, here we go. You know, has he been swayed? But he is a great player. You just wonder about Alvaro Morata, whether he wants to be there in a way, and whether he can do the damage, because he obviously fell away last season, looked tired, looked a little bit weak. But, I mean, it's that midfield area, isn't it? I'm sure Chelsea are desperate to offload a few, and they might do, on loan to European clubs. The likes of Bakayoko and Danny Drinkwater, you can't really see him getting near the first team. And in terms of the wage bill, yeah, I think there's a fair bit of work activity to be done at Stamford Bridge before the European transfer window shuts. But they've got lots of talent, and it's just finding out the way he wants to manage it, to play it.
Different system, right, as well?
Yeah, different system.
Get used to that.
Yeah.
New methods.
So that's the big thing for me, because when Conte come in, he tried that back four at Chelsea and it didn't work. As soon as he switched to the three, that's when Chelsea had their success. And Sarri is a manager that likes to play a back four, and I don't believe that Chelsea have a back four that suits the way that this manager wants to play. I feel like they might need a couple of transfer windows for the manager to really get his stamp on that team, because we see in the Community Shield the other day on a big pitch there was lots of spaces, and I don't feel like Alonso's a comfortable out-and-out left-back. He's more of a wing-back. Yeah, you've got Moses. I think David Luiz isn't as comfortable, and it's proven that in a back two he doesn't look as confident, as comfortable. So I think it's going to be very interesting.
Certainly
for Chelsea
questions
this
to be
season,
answered, aren't there?
And questions still in the goalkeeping position, because they've spent this world record fee on Kepa, who's highly rated in Spain. We wait to see how he settles in England. But they have lost a man mountain in Courtois, who's been great for them over the last couple of years, Alan. What about the way he got his move to Real Madrid? He really agitated. He really pushed it through.
He made sure it happened, and he does leave a nasty taste, but he's not on his own these days. No. Plenty do it. Jordan Ayew at Swansea didn't turn up for training, did he? Look, he got his move. And you can castigate him, but he will think, well, I'll get a bit of stick, but a week down the line, everyone have forgot about it, and I'm a Real Madrid player. You know, the ends justify the means. It's just the way things are these days. They're almost encouraged by their agents, perhaps. I'm not suggesting that's the case here, but I think, you know, it does happen. Yeah. You know, cause a fuss, make sure you get your way. But it's a fascinating situation. They've got a young lad, young keeper, who's not been at the top very long. At Bilbao, you know, he didn't play much football out from the back, a lot of long balls, so he's going to have to work on his footwork, I think, in training, if that's the way that the manager wants to go. You can just see opponents targeting him, slinging balls in the box. Let's see what he's made of.
To De Gea,
yeah, very similar. Yeah. And obviously, David De Gea took time to adjust. He built himself up. He had a great manager in Sir Alex Ferguson who stuck by him. But I think it will be that kind of learning curve for him, quite a steep one. Do
you think he'll stick him straight in then, Saturday, Kepa?
I think he has to. Yeah. I don't think you pay £71 million for a goalkeeper and stick him on the bench. At the end of the day, he's a goalkeeper. You know, I think he's probably a couple of years older than David De Gea was when he arrived at Man United. He's played, 20, 30, 40 more games than De Gea. So, but it will be a little bit of a rude awakening against certain teams that will bombard him and stick the ball over his head and say, right, let's test him, let's see how good he is for crosses. Because that was the noticeable thing when De Gea came to this country, the physicality. So it's going to be an interesting time at Chelsea, that's for sure.
It's Courtois who's got his move, one man who didn't get the move that maybe he wanted. I wonder how he's feeling about it. Adam Leventhal can tell us.
Yeah, indeed. Jules, of course, we are talking about Harry Maguire. What a summer he's had. Amazing World Cup. Then wanted by Manchester United. It was our information at one point that he wanted to go to Manchester United, as Jules alluded to there. However, that hasn't happened. And Manchester United did not get their man. So let's just check in with how he is feeling ahead of the meeting with Manchester United for Leicester City tomorrow. Can't wait for the season to start tomorrow. He could have been in red, but he's going to be in blue. It's going to be intriguing to see how he plays, what the reaction of the Manchester United fans will be to him as well. Now, still to come, our guests will give us their verdict on who they think is the best value transfer of this summer transfer window. That's all to come on deadline day, The Verdict.
So another transfer window closes. Over £1 billion spent by Premier League clubs. And despite the flurry of activity on deadline day, the top 5 transfers of the summer in terms of outlay were already in place. The 5th biggest was the £57 million that Chelsea paid Napoli for Jorginho. Manchester City missing out on that one. They didn't miss out on this one, though. After pursuing him in the last 3 transfer windows, they finally got their man, Leicester City's Riyad Mahrez, on board at the Etihad for £60 million. City rivals United endured a frustrating end to the window, but they snapped up Shakhtar Donetsk midfielder Fred for £61.2 million last month. Liverpool were the biggest spenders in this transfer window, thanks in no small part to the £67 million they paid Roma for Alisson, a world record fee for a keeper. That record lasted 20 days. Chelsea paid Athletic Bilbao £71
So the deadline was 5 o'clock, but transfers are still being confirmed this evening. Let's head to South London. Michael Bridge is at the Crystal Palace training ground. He's finally dried off, I think. What can you tell us, Michael? Hello? No, I don't think he can hear us. He's had some day of it, has Michael's been drenched by the players driving in and soaking him, and I don't think... Oh,
Hello?
he is.
Hello?
Oh, he's
Hello?
there. Go on, Michael, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm here. This tie's gone. This is here, the breaking news, finally. Are you ready? Crystal Palace, you've signed Jordan Ayew on. They've finally been done. You've waited all day. So it completes a great summer for Crystal Palace. Why? Gaeta, goalkeeper, done. Kouate, midfield, done. Max Meyer, new mayor of London, done. And we've now got Jordan Ayew done. Zaha has stayed. Happy, happy days for Crystal Palace. And I must say a big thank you to Bex for my Crystal Palace. I don't support Palace, but thank you to Bex for my Crystal Palace cake. Thank you very much. We are done here at Crystal Palace.
So another transfer window closes. Over £1 billion spent by Premier League clubs. And despite the flurry of activity on deadline day, the top 5 transfers of the summer in terms of outlay were already in place. The 5th biggest was the £57 million that Chelsea paid Napoli for Jorginho, the midfielder. Manchester City missing out on that one. They didn't miss out on this one, though. After pursuing this man in the last 3 transfer windows, they finally got him, didn't they? Leicester City's Riyad Mahrez on board at the Etihad for £60 million. City's rivals United endured a frustrating end to the window, but they snapped up Shakhtar Donetsk midfielder Fred for £61.2 million last month. Liverpool were the biggest spenders in this transfer window, thanks in no small part to this man, Roma keeper Alisson. They paid £67 million for him. That was a world record fee for a keeper. That record lasted 20 days. Chelsea paid Athletic Bilbao £71.6 million for Kepa. He joined last night. It was also a club record transfer for Chelsea, was Kepa, as it was for City for Mahrez. 8 other Premier League clubs also broke their transfer record. West Ham paid Lazio £42 million for forward Felipe Anderson, while the deal to bring in Alexander Mitrovic could be worth £27 million. Jefferson Lerma at £25 million from Levante became Bournemouth's biggest, while newly promoted Wolves spent £18 million on Middlesbrough's Adama Traore. Terence Kongolo cost Huddersfield £17.5 million. And Brighton, well, they needed £17 million to sign Alaraza Jahanbakhsh. Yeah, from AZ Alkmaar. Burnley and Cardiff also set new highs with Ben Gibson and Josh Murphy, respectively. Now, in terms of numbers, Fulham are expected to be the most prolific in this transfer window. By the end of today, their signings could total 12. Just 11 at the moment. We're waiting for approval on that last one. Brighton were busy as well. West Ham United and Wolves went through a major overhaul as well. Then there was Tottenham. 0 incomings. It's the first time a Premier League club has not signed a player in the summer window since the window system was introduced. So it is done. A history-making window. The first time it has closed before the season starts. And if you're getting itchy feet, don't despair. 144 days, we go again.
Yeah, but only 138 days to go till Christmas, Darmesh. Right, let's talk about the window now closed until the new year. Then who has got themselves a bit of a bargain? Which club has done a great bit of business, Don Goodman?
I think there are several that have, and there are several candidates for the signing of the summer. I mean, if you wanted a club that have identified an area that needed improving and they've done it, then you look at Liverpool and you look at the goalkeeper, Alisson. He could be massive for them. But the one that stands out to me, probably because there's a little bit of this club in my heart, is Wolves. To get João Moutinho, who's got over 100 caps for Portugal, year in, year out, played Champions League football for £5 million. I think that's a remarkable deal, actually, and I'm pretty sure he'll be a good success.
I just need a name from the other two. You've got about 10 seconds. Alan, your bargain of this window.
I'm going to go Lucas Perez for West Ham. He looked decent at times for Arsenal, didn't really get a chance. He's got a bit of aggression about him, should suit the Premier League. I think he might do well.
So Moutinho, Perez, and for you, Ryan?
Ryan Fredericks, West Ham, massive potential.
Free transfer
Free
as well,
transfer
wasn't it?
as well,
Yeah.
yes.
Those are the bargains then. The guys think of this transfer window. No doubt that Everton have been one of the busiest clubs, certainly on deadline day. No wonder Marco Silva is applauding. No wonder the Everton fans are applauding. Possibly 4 new faces in on deadline day. The verdict continues next.